talk about the COVID. But first, you guys ready? Are you ready? I got it, man. Daph, you guys got to do like some kind of like countdown tomorrow. Right? Good morning. Dafne Shimizu, by the way, Reverend Tax Director. It's 8:32. Hi, Daph. Good morning.
Half a day. How are you, Chris? How are you, Bree?
I'm okay.
Yeah, we're don't ask how we're doing. How much time you got? You got like an hour?
Well, hopefully you're doing okay. You look really great, so I think that's number one, right?
Yeah.
When you fix your hair and you feel like you're looking good, you always feel much better. At least from a woman's perspective. Right?
It's just a show. We have to. Cause anyway, let's move on. Not about us. Daph, so what up tomorrow?
So,
are you gonna have like a siren or like a starting pistol or?
Well, actually, so just so you know, and of course we did provide yesterday all of our distribution sites. I think with the exception of a few of the libraries, which were not open yet because they are off, on Mondays. We provided all of our distribution sites with the forms, instructions, FAQ, guidelines. So all of our distribution sites have those forms, the hard copy forms. We also started in the afternoon, at the same time that we distributed those to the distribution sites. We did also put onto our website the instructions, also the form in the Form 8821, so people could access them both online and then, of course, as they're getting out to the mayor's offices and other sites as well. And we also started distributing in the afternoon, just, of course, we did kind of a soft kind of launch of that. But this morning at 8 o'clock, our team did begin to issue, we do have a couple of tables outside our building where people are able to get forms if they like. But what we're really recommending is that people utilize the forms, not necessarily to fill them out and submit them, but they utilize the forms as a guide for what they're going to be able to do if they go ahead and get online. We are prepared, though, for the drive-through drop-off service. We have been in communication with GPD. We're going to have GPD on site tomorrow and hopefully, on for the duration of, the period that we're able to be accepting more applications for this program. And so they will be assisting us on Route 16. Also, they'll be assisting us with crowd control, as well as that stoplight right here that's, of course, close to Our Lady of Peace, and that helps bring people up into Foremost and Catholic Social Services, and of course the back entrance of our building. So, we are going to have crowd control here. How it will work, though, is I know there's a lot of concern about when we will be opening. Again, we're not going to be opening our parking lot tomorrow morning until, a little bit before 7 a.m. so that we can let people off the street and begin to open up for drive-through drop-off services, as well as for those people who wish to come into our building, we're going to allow them as well to go ahead and, of course, we're going to open up at 7 a.m. in the income tax branch. So that's all happening. But, again, we believe that, of course, we've work to do our best to kind of organize and so that we can implement this and have as smooth as possible implementation. And again, we're grateful to all of our partners, the Mayor's Council, DISID, our Guam Public Libraries, also, GPD, and as well as some of the other agencies that have even, detailed some of their staff to come over here and to be able to assist us with this. We're actually, excited to get this going.
Yeah.
And we're excited to get this going so that we can, begin to receive applications, review them, and so we can pay these out. So that's how things will work tomorrow.
Daph, we did have a lot of questions here. Hold on, let me just get this first one. Jay, question for Ms. Shimizu. With the requirement to have a filed and processed income tax return for 2020 and with DRT currently up to filings from May, how realistic is it for those who just filed this month in the past couple of days in preparation for the All Rise Act to get their application processed in time to meet the eligibility requirement of having a filed and processed 2020 return?
And actually, that's probably the number one question that I'm getting, even, as people who know me are sending me that question, and I understand that it is a concern. And just to share, kind of, as we came up with the concept of validly filed and processed last year with EIP, the reason for it is really this. And, we knew that if we were going to, just base things on filed and to kind of just go back to EIP and not really necessarily talk about the All Rise program, if we're going to use filed as the basis, really in order for us to be able to, and I was trying to explain this to somebody just the other night, in order for us to be able to make sure that we've accounted for all of the filed and make sure that it's all fair, all, for everybody who filed, it's almost like in order to do that, we would kind of have to stop receiving any additional, forms 1040 so that we can get to the point where everybody is filed and we're able to get everybody kind of at the same point. Unfortunately, and where we're headed though, Bree and Chris, is we're working to do our best to try to get as many people to file online as possible. The IRS pre-COVID was probably at 70 to 80%. They had in terms of online filers. Historically, we've actually been less than 2. And so that means that, of the 80,000 or so, 70 to 80,000 people that file forms 1040, that usually we have less than 1,300 or an average of about 1,300 people who file their tax returns online. So, when we have a manual filed system, it makes it very challenging. I will share though, Chris and Bree, and also for your viewers, that we're doing our best to process as quickly as we can. And that the issue of validly filed and processed, though, we believe is necessary because again, if somebody, it helps as well with us because, again, even, right now people are continuing to file their returns even beyond October 15th. People end up filing their return. People follow their returns. And so again, we understand that that's a concern. Our team is, we're hopeful that we're able to get to as many of the returns and get them processed as quickly as possible. But we understand that this may be a concern for people who don't have a validly filed and processed return at this time. Mm-hmm. But Chris, to go to the point of validly filed and processed, it doesn't only cover people who have not filed or whose filing has not been actually processed or in our system. If your return is not a clean return, meaning it's not an A status return, perhaps you have a duplicate dependent issue, or there's some other issue that you have not addressed yet. You might have a missing document. We send out 30-day notices. So if you have a return and you have received a 30-day notice and you have not addressed it, that also may cause a problem. So not only must your return be processed in our system, if we've received it already, it also must be a clean return or an A status return, which is also the standard that we use for the processing of refunds.
Daphne, we have another question from one of our online viewers. How can we reset a password? I've emailed a request, but no response, or if you forgot your username.
Oh, what a time.
Okay, so for resetting of a password, and if you go to myguamtax.com, there is a section there that says forgot password. And so then you can actually reset your password on your own as long as you know your username. When you do set up an account, you get an email. I actually go back to my email to check when I forget my information. And so that's actually happened to me. With regards to emailing, we did have a bit of an issue with our PIN admin, our email. So our team, our customer call center supervisor advised me that I think over the weekend, she went through about 1,800 emails. And so, they're doing their best to try to get to as many of the emails as possible. If you can't get through by email, and it's very urgent, obviously, I highly suggest you call our customer call center, 635-1840, 1-841-7614, 7651, or 1-813. And our team is actually there from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So, they're there to answer your calls, but it's either through the customer call center, through PIN admin at revtax.guam.gov, which is actually actively being monitored as we speak. And then also again, but if you are able to go back, I believe that when you do set up your account, you do get an email. So if you're able to check your emails, I believe you might be able to get your username. But if it's only a issue of a password reset, the passwords get reset right there. There is a button that says, or there is a little clickable it's a statement that says forgot my password or something. You click on it and it should bring you through the process of being able to reset it.
Daph, we had another question here. Chris, kindly ask, is the application online electronic signature? The application on my Guam Tax homepage is not an individual account. When I go online in my account, it's not there. Please clarify.
Okay, so you know what, and these are great questions. We did put onto our website yesterday, and you find it at myguamtax.com, a PDF version of the application and a PDF version of the 8821 that are both fillable. Of course, if you utilize those forms, you're going to have to, enter all of your information or print it out, enter your information manually with ink, and then go ahead and sign those and file them manually. But when you file online, it's a whole different process. Filing online is not utilizing the PDF form that we have available. Filing online involves getting onto myguamtax.com, registering to create an individual login account right there on myguamtax.com, which you could see. If you log in now, you could probably see it on the left side, kind of toward the mid part of the screen. There is a section that says individual login, and you can create an account there. When you file online, and again, we highly recommend people do, when you file online, of course, what will happen is going to be similar like to when you file your Forms 1040 online, or for people who file their GRT online, which is required by law now, it's similar to that. You're going to get online, you're going to see the application form. And when you're entering the information on the application form, again, there also will be a Form 8821 for yourself. And if you are married filing joint, there's going to be a Form 8821 for your spouse as well. And how it will work is when you file online, just like when you file a Form 1040 online or your BPT online, there is no requirement for an electronic signature. You're going to go through, of course, your account. You're going to enter all of your information. You're likely going to check certain boxes again to make sure that you're attesting to the information, that you really, are the individual that you say you are, and that all the information on that you've entered is true and correct. And you'll go through that process and you'll submit. When you submit your application online, again, it will be complete with the 8821. You will not be able to complete the submission without filling out the 8821. And so what will happen is once you've completed that, you're going to get an email confirmation that will indicate it's going to be a confirmation number. And of course, you're going to be able to see the time and the date that you filed. So that's how it will work if it's online. And that's why we highly recommend for people to file online as much as possible. It'll be easier. You don't have to worry about incompleteness because of not having all the forms. Because as long as you file online, again, if you're married filing joint, you'll have both 8821s there. You can go ahead and submit, and only a single login is required for joint filers. So if you and your spouse are filing joint, only one of you needs to create the account to go ahead and enter all of the information and make sure that it is filed. And again, that's only if you're married filing joint and you are, filing online.
We had another question here, Daph. How is DRT going to determine when the cap is reached, and how would they let people know?
Sure, and so we've been talking about this internally. There is no actual hard date for us to stop receiving applications, right? And so what we have come up with, and our supervisor in EDP Central Files, honestly, she's been so thoughtful about this, and I want to send a shout out to Nora, because she's been working so hard, not only on kind of the programming, but also in working to try to make sure that we have, good guidelines as we implement. But with regards to that, what will happen is on a daily basis, of course, and throughout the day, our team is going to be working to tally. So we make sure that we have a good handle on how many people have filed, also on in terms of entry, how much or what the dollar figure amount of the payout is estimated to be. And once we do get close to or hit the cap, our team will be notifying the public, and we'll do so by official means. So, we when we do our releases, Chris and Bree, we do our best to make sure that our releases are done on our letterhead and with our logo so that it's official. We also usually send out our releases through comms, or comms assists us, and so you'll see it coming from Crystal Paco. So we'll send out an official release, and this is the same information that we also provided to our mayor's council of Guam, or DISTED, and to the Guam Public Libraries, because as well they will have to know at what point we're going to be ceasing accepting any more applications.
I've had another question. Clara comments in, hi, I have been reading that there's a waiver you will sign, and once you sign, any assistance given later will not be offered because of the waiver we sign. I'm guessing the waiver is Form 8821. Is this true? No. They're talking about box number 5 here on page 2 of the application, Daphne. Can you kind of clarify that? Because people are thinking if they check this box, which says, I elect to receive payments under this program in lieu of any payments that may be available under the RISE Act, Executive Order number 2021-11, and bills number 75-36 and 164-36. Check yes or no. I guess first question, if they check no, are they ineligible? They are. And then what are they foregoing by checking yes?
Right, and so I believe that probably, so with regards to the program, of course, what we did follow in this particular section, section 4, these are all of the items that are coming straight from the executive order. Of course, that you certify that your household experienced negative economic impact from COVID-19, that you have or were a resident of Guam in 2020, that you are completing and you're attaching a Form 8821. And the last item is that you elect to receive payments under this program in lieu of any payment that may be available under the RISE Act, Executive Order 2021-11, and there are 2 bills that are referenced here. With regards to number 5, as you know, I believe that the recitals and the executive order, set forth kind of or lay the foundation for, the reason why the Executive Order 2021-18 was issued. One of them, of course, 2021-18 rescinded 2021-11. And so the other issue that we ran into with the RISE Act itself, I believe, is in terms of funding. The source of funds, I think, caused issue with the RISE Act itself. So, and I believe that with the bills, we still don't know what is happening with the bills. But to answer your question, Chris, all questions must be answered yes in order to be eligible, with the exception, of course, of number 4, which you only answer if you are married filing joint. If you're not married filing joint, you do not answer number 4. But again, all questions must be answered yes, otherwise you're not considered eligible. And that last item was something, of course, that as we discussed with legal, the recommendation was that this would be, necessary language so that people understood that this payment actually is really meant to be, I guess, what we thought or what we saw with the All Rise program previously by 2021-11.
Okay, so you're not giving up a stimulus. You're not stop spreading that rumor. All you're giving up is if they were to somehow resurrect the rise in the legislature or whatever, then you just wouldn't be eligible, right?
And I suppose, again, that is indicated in the recitals, but that's basically what this language would mean. And also, just to share, I know something that was brought up by Deputy Director Lizama when we did a bit of a training yesterday was there was concern people don't want to file or apply because, one, I think that there's a thought that this is going to be garnished. There is going to be no garnishment for this. So, it's important that, people know that if you apply and you're eligible, you will get this and it will not be garnished. The other item that was brought up in a discussion the other day was people don't want to apply because they're concerned that this will make them ineligible for any other federal stimulus that is at this point being contemplated, by President Biden. And that also is not true. And so, for those individuals that may have that question about, or concern that this is going to be garnished, it is not garnished. It also is not going to preclude you from being eligible for any federal stimulus payments. And so, again, that's really, really important for people to take note of.
What kind of mechanisms do you guys have in place to prevent, I guess, fraud? And what are the penalties for someone who may fraudulently file a application?
Right, and so those are good questions. Here at Reventax, we do have a criminal investigation branch, right? If there are issues or concerns about fraud or, other criminal activity, of course, we do have a process, and, that process can eventually lead a taxpayer to be, summoned by our criminal investigation branch for questioning. It's very important, and I'm glad you bring this up, Bree, because, the form itself, if you look at the signature line, it's similar and it follows just like the Form 1040. when you sign and fill out this form, it's very important to understand kind of the weight and the gravity of what you're doing, right? This is actually an official government document. And when you're signing under penalties of perjury, just like with regards to when you file a Form 1040, you're basically attesting to the fact that the information is accurate and correct, and that, to the best of your belief. And so, we do, at Rev and Tax as well, because one of the questions that people had is, how can you rely on this? But in terms of reliance and in terms of the way we do tax administration, everything is basically done by voluntary compliance, right? We do not force people to file a Form 1040 or to file their BPT returns. Those are things that people do. They do them. They make sure that they fill those information out. And, there are times when things do go to audit, and we do go ahead and review their information and maybe determine, something different from what perhaps somebody may have filed. So with regards to this, again, what we have been advising people, because I think in particular, the question with regards to negative economic impact has been one question that has been, brought up, and how can you determine that? And if I haven't actually undergone or experienced negative economic impact, what will be the, the consequence? And so, what we've been advising people is at this point, we're not requesting for any supporting documents for these information. What we're, of course, the hope is that people actually do some level of self-reflection, to determine whether or not they're eligible and whether or not they really have experienced some type of negative economic impact. But if we were to ever perhaps be audited by a federal agency, or had to go back and to review the documents and contact people to make sure that we can confirm this information, again, that's not outside of the realm of possibilities. And so what we're letting people know, and what we've advised people in the trainings that we've done is, it's important, again, to make sure that however it is that you answer here, that it is truthful. And again, because it is something very serious, and you're signing under penalties of perjury. And so again, that is quite serious. And I think, again, this is an official government document. We as tax administrators, can rely on that because people are signing under penalties of perjury. And we want to make sure, again, that people understand that.
So how do you, I'm just a little confused. How do you go back and check to ensure that whoever filed this application actually experienced a negative economic impact due to COVID? I mean, what can you give, an example? Because this is really,
Sure.
Or Daph, is it really just like you're not going to check it?
And in our FAQ, and I apologize because you might hear some dogs barking in the background, so just excuse if you hear some dogs barking in the background. I've been taking calls from home all morning long. Yeah. So with regards to negative economic impact, I believe that in our FAQ, we do provide some guidance. And that was guidance that was actually, as I understand it, coming from the interim final rules or guidelines from the Treasury. So there is loss of revenue, loss of income. There is food insecurity, also housing insecurity, and so loss of employment, loss of hours. Those are all examples of experiencing negative economic impact. One example that I have given, though, and of course we internally have been discussing this a lot, and so one of the questions had come up was in a discussion was, with regards to retirees or active employees of the government, is it really possible that someone could have received or had negative economic impact? And just to share with you, one actually real life example is that there is a couple who are they're both government retirees. I'm not sure if it's government of Guam or federal, but they're both government retirees. However, their monthly payments that they receive for the retirement isn't sufficient for them to cover, their bills basically. And so what they do, or what they've had to do over the last several years since their retirement, is that they've had to, take on additional work to clean one of our parish churches. And that, additional work that they've taken on, actually that supplemental income is something that allows for them to be able to pay, their bills and make ends meet. Of course, during COVID, when the churches closed down, there was no need for their services. And so they did lose that additional income. And that actually is a real life example of, a situation where somebody may receive consistent income because they do have retirement income, but where because of the fact that they did lose the supplemental income that they need because in order for them to be able to make ends meet on a regular basis, that they were negatively economically impacted. And I wanted to share that because I know there is a lot of concern, but really, I think what it comes down to is really people need to, again, really do some level of self-reflection, look at their situation. Every situation is going to be different, right? And so, there were, and again, that's something that we're hopeful that people, do is that level of self-reflection to determine whether or not they've really been economically impacted negatively.
Daph, I hate to go outside of the all race, but we are getting a lot of calls about the child tax credit.
No problem. So, as you know, we've been working on the background on the advanced child tax credit. Our implementation plan was approved, I believe, at 1:51 a.m. on August 18. We've been kind of trying to focus on getting the All Rise program out and running. We're right now in the process of, and we have been over the last several weeks communicating with our IT vendor to make sure that the programming for the advanced child tax credit is implemented. The advanced child tax credit is a little bit more complicated than the All Rise program and the EIP. What is involved with it is, of course, it's an advance of credit that people are going to be able to receive if they are eligible on a 2021 return. There are, as part of our implementation plan agreement or agreement with the Treasury, we are required to allow for people to make certain changes to their status, and to include, we're supposed to be allowing people to have the ability to opt out of this if they do not wish to receive a payment. And so we're working on multiple things right now. We're working on the development of a portal so that people can log in, they can opt out, they can change their marital status, they can add direct deposit information if they wish to be paid by direct deposit versus check. And that's kind of the first phase of it. The second phase, of course, would be to go ahead and move forward with making payments. We were hopeful that we would, as we were discussing this with the IRS and the Treasury, we were hopeful that early on we would be able to begin in August. Of course, that's not happening. It is August 31, but we're actually required to begin to make payments in the month of September. And so, we're working toward that target to make payments out in September and then monthly thereafter. So we'll make payments in September and then we'll make payments in October, November, and December. And so we're now working on that. We'll have more information, of course, as we make more progress with regards to our programming. I think that is really largely the discussion and the efforts that we're having to take on right now is just making sure our programming is available and that we're able to open up the portal so people can log in and make changes as they need. So, we're hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll have good information on that, Chris and Bree, and so we can get this implemented. We're targeting and we're actually required to get this implemented beginning this month.
Can I ask about STEMIs? Because I'm getting there's a few people I know, and we also had some comments. People who have gotten maybe the first one and the second one, but not the third one, or any type of combination of that. Because I think they're assuming that if they got the one, then they'd be good for the other two. So could you address any issues with people who might be waiting for any of the EIP checks? Is there anything they need to do on their end?
Sure. And every person's situation will be different, but with regards to EIP-1, if you recall, EIP-1 was based on a 2019 return, and if you didn't have a 2019 validly filed and processed, then a 2018. So there were actually some people who had filed a 2018 return, and they received EIP-1, but they didn't file a 2019 return, so they did not receive EIP-2. And that could be a situation that some people are in. I know I actually was in communication with somebody who was in that particular, who had that particular situation, or was in that category. But if you have filed both your 2018 and 2019, it's important to take note, of course, now you cannot get EIP-1 or 2 as as an upfront payment. You're going to have to file your 2020 return, be eligible based on your 2020 return, and receive your EIP as what's called a recovery rebate credit. And Chris and Bree, I just want to share, there are actually people who have filed a return and qualify for the rebate recovery credit, didn't receive EIP, but did not fill out the rebate recovery credit worksheet. And so it's very important when you file your return, go see a tax preparer. Make sure that you also ask your tax preparer about the rebate recovery credit so that you can receive it. But if you haven't received EIP 1 or 2, again, you're not going to be able to receive it as an upfront payment anymore, but you're going to be able to receive it as a rebate recovery credit on your 2020 return, as long as you qualify. So just make sure that, again, if you haven't received it, that you file your 2020 return, that you properly fill out the rebate recovery credit worksheet on your return, and then that way you can receive it. For EIP 3, we're still paying those out, and we have until December 31, 2021 to pay out EIP 3. For people who have already received EIP 3, again, EIP 3 was based on a 2020 return, and if you didn't have a validly filed and processed 2020 return, we were allowed to go back and pay based on a 2019 return. But so if you haven't filed your 2020 return yet, if it's not in our system yet, then perhaps that's the reason why that you haven't received EIP 3. You can always go ahead and get online and check the status. We do have a portal where you can check the status of your EIP payments, and you can look at that. I highly recommend that for people who may have gotten EIP 1 but didn't get EIP 2, that they go ahead and check that. We did run into some challenges, I know, at some point, and hopefully these are all resolved now, but we did run into some challenges with people who qualified, who we cut payment or checks for, and those checks were mailed out to them, but for some reason they hadn't received those. So, go ahead and log on to our portal, check the status, but again, also, pull up your tax returns, check to see if you've actually filed your 2019 and 2020 returns, because that's a good indicator, and that is, kind of where we start when we try to determine why somebody has not been paid an EIP payment.
All right. Thanks, Daphne.
Before we let you go, can you please give out a message to all of the tributes who are going to be out for the All Rise tomorrow?
Well, you know what? Again, I want to thank all of our mayor's offices. They've been so hugely helpful. Angel Sablon, who's the executive director of the Mayor's Council, Mayor Jesse Alec, but all of our mayors who have been so hugely helpful. I think the Sinajano Mayor's office, if you go there, they have an All Rise little center that they've set up. So thank you to all of our mayors. Thank you to DISID. Thank you to our Guam Public Libraries. Thank you to GPD. And to, of course, the front office, because they've been assisting with this. I know, again, it's we're very excited to get the payments out. But thank you also, Chris and Bree, and to KUAM for always getting the message out and for getting us in this morning so that we can get the information. And, to the viewers of KUAM, Chris and Bree, they do communicate with me regularly if there are questions that you guys pose. So if you have any questions, concerns, if you need to, get a comment in, please let them know, and they relay those to me, and we do our best to help our people. Again, we're going to do our best to get payments out to our people as quickly as possible on this program and make sure it runs as smoothly as possible. And we thank our people for their continued patience, and we're going to get these out. So thanks again, Bree. Thanks again, Chris, and have a great day.
Thanks,
Good luck,
Daphne.
Daph. Godspeed.
Good luck to you and your staff tomorrow.
Right on. There you go. 905. Let's go to the phones here. 637-0094. That's our number. Ma'am, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question. I filed our 2020 tax, and we had to do the amendments, and we received our own check. But when we went back to the tax filer, they